John here and seeing that I have been made a doctor, though I'm not one. And to make it even more difficult, my daughter has flown all the way from Monaco to listen to me. And the CEO and the head of the largest rural support program in Pakistan, Dr. Rashid Bajwa, is also here. So I know that Sampat Kumar is the culprit for getting me this invitation. But I don't know what he has been feeding you about me. And John has even made it worse, just imagine. Always revered John, and he used to work with my mentor, Dr. Hamid Khan. And every time anybody who was coming to Harvard, I would beg him to find out where John Thomas is. And I'm so glad that he's there this morning. And don't believe whatever John has said. John, of course, is so generous. I really learned all from Dr. Hamid Khan, and then John came and spent 6 months in Peshawar, prison, and I'm asking him to come again, and we'll take care of his security, so I hope he will. When I look back on over 61 years of my working life, and my working in the government, United Nations, Aga Khan Foundation, and rural support programs, my greatest successes and satisfaction were when I succeeded in forging basically meaningful partnerships with communities. I mean, being a civil servant, I thought that my career is chopped out and there is a path of promotion and then retirement and pension. But then, over 50 years ago, I met a visionary called Dr. Hamid Khan, about whom Nobel laureate Professor Yunus wrote to me. It's not enough to say that he was a great man. He was one of the great human beings of the past century. He was so much ahead of everybody else that he was seen more as a misfit than appreciated for his greatness. We have a lot to discover and a whole lot to learn from him. I have the privilege of Dr. Hamid Khan giving me the first lessons in forging partnerships with communities, but it's only during the last 35 years that I got the opportunity, thanks to His Highness the Aga Khan, to fully and exclusively devote myself interacting with the communities in Pakistan. And then it was UNDP, which brought me in contact with the communities in Bangladesh, India, Maldives, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. Over this period, I personally have held dialogues with over 5,000 communities, and I wish to share that experience with you. In fact, it was very cold, colder than what it is today in Harvard. I still vividly remember the bitterly cold December in 1982, when I drove 600 kilometers from Islamabad to Gilgit on a borrowed jeep, on a road which is known to be passing through the highest altitude, the Karakoram Highway, which goes from Islamabad to Kashgar. This was the beginning of the Aga Khan Rural Support Program, AKRSP, and forging of partnerships over the next 12 years with 1 million people in one of the most inhospitable and harshest terrain anywhere in the world. I brought them a simple message, but time-tested from the days of Raiffeisen in Germany, in 19th century Europe, followed by Japan, Taiwan, Kumila in East Pakistan, Dida in East Pakistan, and South Korea's Samulunbong. This message was of partnership in development. A KRSP was not there to listen to the demands, needs, and problems of the poor and offer solutions. AKRSP offered them only a methodology, an approach, and social guidance to overcome the handicaps themselves. The villagers used to look at me with disbelief. A program bearing the name of one of the richest person in the world would not and was not willing to solve their problems and asking them to do things first. I explained this is a partnership which entails obligations on both sides. And unless the community was prepared to fulfill its obligations, how can the partnership be formed? Many were impatient and would pester me to tell them what was the limit to which the program would help them if they accepted the terms of partnership. And my simple response used to be, your limit is our limit. Whatever the community can do or was willing to do was the program limit. I was very happy that when the approach was reinforced by the first World Bank assessment of AKRSP in 1987, saying that the first 4 years of AKRSP are the missed 4 years of most rural development programs in the world, where blueprint took precedence over a process approach. The KRSP did not go to the communities with a preconceived package and left it to each community to identify their potential, not only as community, but also at household level. And as Susan was mentioning, in 2011, in London, when my meeting with Lord Black, Executive Director of the Daily Telegraph, I explained the strategy of social mobilization. He observed, you succeeded because you did not plan. I clarified, yes, I did not plan. I allowed the communities to plan. I have seen people coming out of poverty with my own eyes and smiles on their faces instead of abstruse statistics that you normally see. The 1 million people I worked with for 12 years in northern areas of Pakistan through the Akhan Rural Support Program reinforced my conviction of the tremendous potential and willingness in people to do away many things themselves and to come out of poverty by listening to them. All that they needed was a support organization to help them unleash their potential. Once organized, the men and women took their destiny in their own hands. They knew what would bring them out of poverty. It reminded me what Michelangelo used to say on being praised, I have done nothing. David was hidden in the marble. I only removed the superfluous material covering it. They planted 50 million trees on the land brought under irrigation range, generated about 6 megawatts of electricity through village-built and managed mini-hydro projects, acknowledged by the bank, World Bank, as the biggest concentration of community-managed micro-hydro projects anywhere in the world. In agriculture, horticulture, and livestock, the organized communities made quantum jump in introducing and later marketing apple varieties from California and cherries from France. Their apricot is picked up by a London buyer from the farm gate at Gilgit. The initiative in protecting wildlife in collaboration with IUCN and WWF has given rich dividends, sharing 25% of the proceeds of trophy hunting with the Government Wildlife Department. The tourists can now watch ibex, markhor, and sometimes, if you're lucky, even the snow leopard from the roadside. On one of my visits to northern areas, I went to a village, Ahmedabad, where 22 years ago I had gone sitting in a basket pulled across the river as there was no bridge on the river. The village with about 110 households was totally isolated, although the Karakoram highway from Islamabad to Kashgar passed by it. The village had no access, no road, no school, no health facility, no potable drinking water, and no electricity. Today it has everything. these people would never have been touched by any growth strategy or macro planning. They needed a development strategy which involved each and every household in the development process. Unfortunately, this is what our macro planners fail to comprehend, with due deference to many of the economists who are sitting here. I asked them what was the secret of their success? The spontaneous response was, we got organized. The village roads were marked with dustbins, the environment was litter-free. According to Second World Bank evaluation of AKRSP, in 10 years, the income of the people of northern areas had in real terms more than doubled. In 1994, when UNDP asked me to take lessons learned from northern areas of Pakistan to South Asia, India being the largest country in the region, it was the greatest challenge to South Asia poverty alleviation program. And to me personally, as a Pakistani, to make a difference to the lives of women and their households there. My apprehensions were baseless. The people of Andhra Pradesh and the state government welcomed me with open arms and treated me with unforgettable kindness, hospitality and affection, and continues to do so. In Andhra, I was told that after 7 years, almost 75% of the organized households had risen above the subsistence level. When I doubted this statement, the women insisted on taking me to their homes. I visited a number of houses which I had visited on my first visit in 1995, when women used to earn no more than 5 rupees a day. I was wonder-struck to find modern amenities like television, telephone, toilets in the houses. In one house, I did not see television, and I asked the lady if she had been left behind. She asked me to visit her backyard, where more than 35 goats were standing. She explained, her children are young, and unlike other children, do not insist on going to neighbors to see the television. Hence, she made her choice of preferring goats to television. This reminded me of Nobel laureate Amartya Sen's book, Develoption of Community-Managed Sustainable Agriculture. To date, adopted by over 300,000 farmers. It has enabled the poor to break out of the exploitative relations with the moneylenders, fertilizer and pesticide traders. In the next 5 years, the Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty, SERP of Andhra Pradesh, plans to take it to 10 to 12 million acres, covering 50 to 60% of the cultivable area of the state. The environmental benefits of CMSA are enormous. It will convert the state into a green state with impact on climate change and global warming. However, the main motivation for the poor to adopting these practices is the quantum jump in their net incomes. The lesson is that however good the technology may be, without people's involvement through their strong grassroots institutions, it will remain in the laboratories and universities. We need a people-centered solution to food security and climate change. Despite phasing out of UNDP finance SAPAP program in 2000, Government of Andhra keeps on inviting me. During one of these visits in 2008, I also paid a visit to Rajiv Gandhi Mahila Vikas Yojana in Sultanpur, Amethi. Again, I suspect engineered by Sampath Kumar. I was most impressed by the perception of Mr. Rahul Gandhi, whom I met there, and the understanding of process of social mobilization harnessing the potential of the people, and his empathy and compassion to the poor and the downtrodden, and how he is determined to reach each and every poor household, not only in with such champions of poverty elimination, the goal of poverty reduction in the entire country is certainly attainable. The village I visited with Mr. Gandhi, the women described the changes and transformation in their lives as follows. The self-help groups which they have formed in India, in the village area, now federated into a cluster-level association at the village level. And they started describing their experiences to me. The women claimed to have been empowered since they got organized in self-help groups and formed the CLA. Of their members, one of the members complained that her husband was maltreating and beating her. The self-help group and the CLA decided to act and confronted the man against the cruel behavior, which towards his wife, the man threatened to beat the women and shouted at the self-help group women that it was a domestic matter and none of their business. A group of 30 women went to the local police station and complained against the culprit. The police officer came and immediately took the man away and locked him up. The next day, the women asked the police officer to release him without registering a case against him because they only wanted to teach him a lesson. The man has been on his best behavior since then towards his wife and towards the whole village. The women stated, but for the self-help group and the CLA, they would have suffered in silence as they used to prior to the project. When even the Pradhan or the chairman of the Panchayat now listens to them and does not ignore when they go with any problem that they are facing. In 2011, when I met Mr. Rahul Gandhi, he wanted development as a right, just as a right to information, right to employment that have been enacted by the Indian Parliament. He was fully convinced that self-help groups and the institutions of the people built on it are like a computer, which have the capacity to absorb any program you feed in. He envisioned in the future the framework of grassroots institutions playing an important and vital role in rural-urban migration in a planned way. In 1982, when I had initiated the Aga Khan Rural Support Program based on development principles enunciated by Raiffeisen in 19th century Europe and learned by me under the tutelage of Dr. Hamid Khan and John, who's sitting here, it was not in my wildest dreams that the efficacy and universality and applicability of these principles would be proven from Gilgit-Baltistan to Gwadar, from Peshawar to Tharparkar, from Andhra Pradesh to Uttar Pradesh. In a nutshell, Raiffeisen had advocated organization, capital generation, and human skills development that we call social mobilization. The fundamental objectives of social organization is to foster institutions of the poor. This is its real niche, and every activity undertaken is a means to this end. It should be aimed at an investment in institution building. Let me now turn to a few lessons from this most inspiring visit which I did in October 2013 to India. I will frame the lesson